Hi, and welcome back to Forsaken Joe. Today's story, well, I wish I could say it's fiction. I wish I could say it didn't happen to me, but it did. It all started 5 minutes before we were supposed to leave for a friend's party. She walked out of the bedroom like nothing was wrong, adjusting her hair, and then dropped a bomb that nearly knocked the air out of me. "I'm not going with you," she said, almost casually. "I'm meeting someone else tonight." There was no pause, no hesitation. Like it was as normal as saying she needed milk from the store. I stood there, holding the car keys in my hand, staring at her like I didn't even recognize the woman standing in front of me. "You're joking," I said, "right? Please tell me this is some kind of sick joke." She just shook her head. And that's when the silence hit me. This heavy, suffocating silence where every second feels like an hour. My chest tightened. I swear my brain was begging me to wake up, like this was all a dream. I wish I could tell you I handled it like some hero in a movie, but I didn't. I stood there like an idiot, my voice cracking as I whispered, "Why are you doing this?" "We were fine this morning." She rolled her eyes, like I was a child asking too many questions. "We haven't been fine for a long time, Curtis. I just can't do this anymore." Something in me snapped then, but not in the way you'd think. I didn't yell or throw anything. I just laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh that even surprised me. "Wow," I said. "Okay, go, but don't ever come back and pretend this didn't destroy everything." For the first time, she looked shaken. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but I think she saw something in my face, something broken, and just grabbed her purse. I watched her leave, the sound of the door clicking shut echoing in my head like a gunshot. That night, I sat on the living room floor with the lights off, my phone buzzing with texts from friends asking where we were. I couldn't answer. I couldn't even breathe right. But here's the thing. That wasn't the end. What I found on her laptop the next day made me realize this wasn't just a betrayal. It was something much darker, something I wasn't prepared to face. The next morning, I woke up on the couch, still wearing yesterday's clothes, my mouth dry, and my mind running like an old film reel stuck on repeat. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice. "I'm meeting someone else tonight." I didn't even know where to start. My first thought was to call her, demand an explanation. But something told me I wouldn't get the truth. Something told me I didn't even know half of what was really going on. I don't know why I did it. Maybe out of desperation, but I grabbed her laptop. She's always been careless with passwords. Same one for everything. And before I could talk myself out of it, I was staring at her messages. I thought I was prepared. I wasn't. There they were. Dozens of messages with a guy named Ethan. Every line was like a punch in the gut. It wasn't just cheating. It was planning. It was laughing at me. It was her saying things about me that no husband should ever read. I found one message that made me freeze. "I'll tell him tonight before the party. He won't do anything. He never does. He's weak." My chest burned, my hands shaking so bad I could barely scroll. Weak. That's how she saw me. All these years, and that's the word she used. Something broke in me reading that, not in an angry way, but in this empty, hollow way where I felt like a ghost in my own life. I wasn't just heartbroken. I felt erased. I didn't know what to do, but my first instinct wasn't revenge or anger. It was something pitiful. I grabbed my phone and almost called her, almost begged her to come home and explain why I wasn't enough. But then I saw another message from Ethan, sent just hours before she left. "Make sure you don't back out. He's pathetic anyway. You deserve better." That word. Pathetic. It was like they'd been laughing at me, and I didn't even know it. I slammed the laptop shut and just sat there, staring at the floor. Something inside me shifted that morning. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was real. Like I suddenly knew I couldn't keep living like this, begging for someone who already decided I was nothing. I decided I'd see her face to face that night. No texts, no calls. I'd wait for her to come home, and I'd say what I had to say. I didn't know what that would be yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to be pathetic anymore. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what happened when she walked back through that door. That entire day felt like I was living underwater, every sound muffled, every second stretched out into eternity. I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I just sat in that silent apartment, staring at the door like it was a loaded weapon, waiting for her to walk through it. Every creak in the hallway made my stomach twist. I kept thinking about what I would say. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to read every disgusting message aloud until she had nothing left to say. Another part of me, the weaker, miserable part, just wanted her to look me in the eye and say she didn't mean it, that she still loved me and we could fix this. God, how pathetic is that? The hours dragged until finally, around midnight, I heard the key turn in the lock. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I'd faint. She stepped inside like nothing was wrong. Her hair was messy, her lipstick faded, but she didn't look guilty. No, she looked alive, like I hadn't seen her look in years. That somehow hurt worse than anything. "You're still up?" she asked, as if she wasn't the one who just demolished my life. I didn't answer right away. I just stared at her, trying to memorize her face, because in that moment, she didn't look like my wife anymore. She looked like a stranger wearing her skin. "Did you have fun with him?" I finally asked, my voice shaking in that embarrassing way that makes you sound like a kid on the verge of tears. She stopped moving, one hand still holding her purse strap, and gave me this cold, unreadable look. "Curtis, don't do this," she said softly, almost like she pitied me. That tone lit something in me. I stood up. My knees were weak, but I forced myself to stay upright. "Don't do what?" "Don't ask why my own wife is sneaking off to another man. Don't ask why you've been lying to my face while laughing behind my back." My voice cracked halfway through, but I didn't care. She sighed, looking exhausted, like I was the problem here. "It's not about him, it's about us. You've changed, Curtis. We're not happy anymore. And I found someone who what?" I snapped. "Who tells you I'm pathetic?" "Yeah, I read the messages. You think I don't know what's been going on?" That's when her face changed. For the first time, she looked caught off guard, like I'd ripped off a mask she didn't even know she was wearing. "You went through my laptop?" she asked, her voice dropping into this low, dangerous tone. "Yes," I said, my voice steadier now. "And I saw everything, every disgusting word. You think I'm weak? You think I'm pathetic? Maybe I am, because I still love someone who clearly doesn't give a damn about me." There was this long pause where we just stared at each other, the tension so heavy it felt like the walls were leaning in. And then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a short, bitter laugh that chilled me to the bone. "You're right, Curtis," she said. "You are pathetic. And that's why I didn't tell you sooner. Because I knew you'd just stand there like this, crying instead of fighting. You always do." I don't know what came over me then, but something snapped. Not anger, not hate, just a realization so sharp it felt like a blade cutting through fog. I didn't say another word. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed a bag, and started throwing my stuff inside. Her smile disappeared when she realized I was serious. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice suddenly tense. "Leaving," I said simply. "If I'm pathetic, then you don't need me here, right?" She tried to grab my arm, but I pulled away. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes, and I didn't understand why. It wasn't until I checked my phone later that night, alone in my car, engine running, that I realized Ethan wasn't just some guy. He was something much worse. Sitting alone in the car that night, I felt like I was watching my own life from the outside. The bag of clothes on the passenger seat felt almost absurd, like I'd packed for some trip I never planned to take. I just sat there, engine humming, staring at the glow of our apartment window. I half expected her to appear, to come running down with an apology that would fix everything. But deep down, I knew no apology was coming. It was over, and I needed to know the full extent of why. I opened my phone, thumb trembling, and scrolled back through the messages I'd copied from her laptop earlier. I had saved them like some desperate detective trying to find proof. But what I was about to read didn't just confirm the betrayal, it blew it wide open. The messages with Ethan weren't just romantic or flirty. They were calculated, detailed. There were references to me I didn't understand. Things about where I worked, what time I usually got home, and even mentions of a plan. My stomach turned as I read a line from Ethan. "Don't let him catch on too soon. We need this to look clean." What the hell did that even mean? This wasn't the language of a man having an affair. This sounded organized, intentional. I scrolled deeper and found something worse. A photo. It wasn't of her. It was of me, taken from a distance at my office parking lot. My heart nearly stopped. Who was this guy, and why was he watching me? I did what any panicked husband with no self-control would do. I searched his name. Ethan Voss. The first hit was a Facebook profile. Private, no photos, just a location tag somewhere across town. I dug deeper, checking LinkedIn, old forum posts, anything. Nothing felt normal. The guy didn't seem real, like he existed just enough to convince her he was someone, but not enough to prove anything about his past. My head was spinning. Had she been tricked? Was this some scam? But the messages told another story. She trusted him. She trusted him enough to mock me, to plan nights with him, to talk about a future that didn't include me. One message from her hit me like a bullet. He's so predictable. He won't fight for me. He never will. I didn't know what scared me more, that my wife believed I was worthless, or that this mysterious guy had some twisted interest in my life beyond her. My gut told me there was something dangerous brewing, something bigger than just cheating. That's when I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I was going to find this guy, not to fight him. God knows I wasn't built for that, but to see his face, to understand what kind of person could slide into my life and destroy it from the shadows. But before I could even start, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I froze when I read it. "You should have stayed quiet, Curtis. She was right about you." When I read that text, my entire body locked up. It was like the world tilted on its side for a second, and I had to remind myself to breathe. I read it again. "You should have stayed quiet, Curtis. She was right about you." It wasn't just the words, it was the tone, cold, certain. Whoever this was, they knew me, or at least they wanted me to believe they did. I stared at the screen, waiting for another message, but none came. The silence in that car felt suffocating, as though the night itself was holding its breath. I don't know what possessed me, but I texted back, "Who is this? What do you want?" "Nothing?" I waited, watching the typing bubble that never appeared. My mind was spiraling, trying to connect dots that didn't exist. Was this Ethan or someone else? Did she give him my number? How long had this been going on? I thought about driving back to the apartment, storming in and demanding answers, but something inside me told me not to. It wasn't fear. It was this weird, heavy instinct that if I went back, I'd walk into something I couldn't handle. Instead, I drove aimlessly for hours, just circling the city like a ghost. Every time my phone buzzed, I nearly jumped out of my skin, but it was just random notifications or missed calls from friends wondering where we were the night before. I didn't answer any of them. Around 3 a.m., I parked in this empty lot behind a grocery store. I don't know why, but I opened the laptop again. I reread the messages, looking for anything I might have missed. And that's when I saw it, a detail I hadn't caught the first time. One of Ethan's messages had an address, just a quick mention like, "Meet me at 10 by 54th and Rowan, I'll have the stuff ready." The stuff? What stuff? Drugs? Money? Something illegal? My brain latched onto it, desperate for an answer. I copied the address into my phone. It was only 15 minutes from where I sat. I should have gone home. I should have ignored it. But instead, I started the car and drove. The streets were empty, my headlights slicing through the dark like two thin blades. When I reached 54th and Rowan, I found myself in front of an old warehouse with boarded-up windows and a flickering streetlight. It looked abandoned. My heart was pounding as I parked a block away, staring at the building like it might suddenly open its mouth and swallow me whole. And then, as if on cue, a car pulled up. Black SUV, tinted windows. I slid lower in my seat, pulse hammering. A man stepped out, tall, broad shoulders, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. He didn't look like a guy meeting someone for a romantic rendezvous. He looked like someone you didn't want to cross. He pulled out his phone, and in that eerie silence, I swear I felt him look straight toward my car, even though I knew he couldn't see me. For a split second, I was sure he was Ethan. I don't know why, but I grabbed my phone and started recording him from the dark. My hands shook so badly the video came out blurry. I didn't know it then, but that moment, spying on him like some nervous wreck, was the start of something far worse. Because the next morning, I got another message from that same unknown number. Just 4 words this time. "Nice car, Curtis. Careful." I didn't sleep that night, not a single second. I just sat on the edge of my cheap motel bed, staring at that text. "Nice car, Curtis. Careful." It felt like the letters were burned into my eyes. I kept replaying everything in my head. My wife's confession, the messages with Ethan, the SUV at the warehouse, and now this. Someone was watching me. They weren't just guessing about my life. They knew where I was, what I drove, maybe even what I was doing at that exact moment. It made my skin crawl. I kept glancing at the window, half expecting to see someone's shadow outside. Around dawn, I couldn't take it anymore. I left the motel, driving aimlessly with this feeling of being hunted, like every car behind me was following. Every stranger's glance was too long. I didn't want to go back to the apartment, but I couldn't stay away. I had to see her, to look her in the eye and ask what the hell she had gotten me into. When I walked through that door, she was sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone like nothing had happened. No apology, no shock, just a casual glance up at me as if I were late getting milk. "Where were you?" she asked, and the way she said it, that faint tone of annoyance, made my blood boil. "Don't," I snapped. "Don't act like I'm the one sneaking around. Who is Ethan, and why the hell is someone threatening me now?" She froze for a second, and I saw it. That flicker in her eyes. She knew. She knew exactly what I was talking about. "What messages?" she asked, but her voice wavered slightly, betraying her calm facade. I pulled out my phone and shoved it toward her face. "These, the ones you've been sending to him while mocking me. The ones where you call me pathetic. And now, someone's texting me from an unknown number. Does that sound like a game to you?" Her face went pale, and for the first time, she looked genuinely scared. "Curtis, you shouldn't have gone looking. You don't understand who he is." Those words made my stomach twist. "Then explain it to me. Who is he?" I demanded. She hesitated, her eyes darting toward the door, as if expecting someone to walk in at any moment. "He's not just some guy, Curtis. He's dangerous. I didn't want to drag you into this. You were never supposed to know." The rage I'd been holding back all night exploded. "Drag me into this? You brought him into our marriage. You lied to me, you made me feel like a joke, and now I'm the one who's supposed to just back off because he's dangerous?" Her lips trembled, but she didn't answer. And then, like a perfectly timed nightmare, my phone buzzed on the table. I didn't even need to look at the screen to know it was him. I opened the message anyway, my hands shaking as I read, "She talks too much. Get out of there, Curtis." My breath caught in my throat. I looked at her, and the fear on her face confirmed everything. This wasn't just an affair. This was something I couldn't even begin to comprehend. And we were both in way over our heads. I grabbed her arm, my voice cracking. "What did you get involved in? What is going on?" But before she could answer, we both heard it. The sound of tires screeching outside and a car door slamming shut. The sound of that car door slamming outside froze both of us in place. It wasn't just a random noise. I knew it in my gut. Someone was here. I rushed to the window and pulled the curtain back just enough to peek through. Parked across the street was the same black SUV I'd seen the night before at the warehouse, its engine rumbling low like some predator waiting in the dark. My pulse skyrocketed. She stood behind me, pale and trembling, gripping the back of the chair like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Curtis, we need to leave," she whispered, but I didn't move. I just kept staring at that SUV, half expecting someone to step out with a gun or worse. "Leave?" I hissed, turning toward her. "You're going to start explaining first. I'm done being kept in the dark. Who is he? Why is he here?" Her voice cracked. "Ethan isn't just a guy I've been seeing. It started like that, yes, but Curtis, I didn't know who he really was. He's dangerous. He's been watching us for weeks. He told me things about you I didn't even know. Where you work, what time you leave, where you park. I thought he was just being creepy, but now I think he's planning something." My head spun. "Planning what?" I demanded. Before she could answer, my phone buzzed again on the coffee table. I grabbed it, dread curling in my gut. The new message read, "Open the door, Curtis. We need to talk. You've got 10 seconds. I felt my mouth go dry. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I glanced back at her, and she looked like she was about to cry. "Don't open it," she whispered, but the pounding on the front door started almost immediately after, loud and deliberate, shaking the frame. 10 seconds. That's all I had. My brain raced, every survival instinct screaming at me to run, but something inside me, something raw and furious, pushed me forward. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept by the shoe rack, the same one I'd never actually thought I'd need, and approached the door. "Curtis, please," she begged, grabbing my arm. "If you open that door, we're both screwed. He's not here to talk. He's here to make sure we stay quiet." "Stay quiet?" The words hit me like ice water. "Quiet about what?" I yelled, but the only response was another thunderous knock that rattled the entire apartment. I yanked her toward the back hallway. "We're not answering. We're leaving now." We moved quickly, throwing open the back door that led to the narrow alley behind our building. I glanced over my shoulder just in time to hear the front door creak. He was inside. My heart stopped. We ran. I didn't care where we were going, as long as it was away from that SUV, away from the man who had turned our lives into this nightmare. The alley was dark and smelled like old garbage, but I didn't care. I just kept moving, my wife's hand in mine, her breath coming out in ragged gasps. When we finally reached the main street, I saw him. A shadow detached itself from the side of the SUV, stepping into the light. He wasn't just some random guy. He had this presence, tall, broad, and cold, like he knew he was in control. He didn't run after us, but he didn't need to. He just stood there, watching, and that was worse. I threw her into the passenger seat of my car, jumped in, and peeled out of there, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. For several blocks I didn't speak, didn't breathe, until she finally whispered, "He's not going to stop Curtis. Not until he gets what he wants." I glanced at her, my mind burning with questions. "Then you better tell me right now what the hell he wants. Because if I'm going to survive this, I need the truth. All of it." Her face twisted with guilt, and she took a shaky breath. "Ethan isn't just my affair. He's part of something I got involved in a year ago, something I thought I could handle, but I didn't know it would end like this." I slammed on the brakes, pulling over to the side of an empty road, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Start talking," I said, my voice shaking with equal parts fear and anger. "Because if you don't, I swear, I'll drive straight to the police." She looked at me with wide, tearful eyes. "You don't understand. If we go to the police, we're both dead." Her words hung in the air like a blade ready to drop. "If we go to the police, we're both dead." I stared at her, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart wanted to explode, but I forced myself to breathe. "Then tell me everything," I said, my voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. "No more lies, no more secrets." She broke down then. Between tears, she confessed that Ethan wasn't just some random affair. He was connected to a criminal ring she'd stupidly gotten tangled with through a coworker. What started as a flirtation turned into something darker, with favors, money exchanges, and promises she never understood until it was too late. She said Ethan had started controlling her, threatening to expose her mistakes if she didn't keep quiet. And now, with me snooping around, I had become a liability. For a moment, I felt completely hollow. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, even myself, it was all burned down to ashes. But then, I looked at her. She was broken, terrified, and for the first time, I realized that maybe she hadn't wanted any of this. Maybe she had been scared all along. So I did something I didn't expect. I forgave her. Not for cheating. That wound was still raw. But for being human, for being lost and scared in ways I'd never noticed. I took a deep breath and said, "We're going to fix this. We're not going to let him win." We drove straight to my brother's place outside the city. He's a cop, someone I'd never wanted to involve, but I had no choice. When we showed him the messages and the threats, he didn't hesitate. He called in a team that same night. Within 2 days, they had tracked down Ethan and his crew. It turns out they were already under investigation for fraud and extortion. My evidence was the final nail in their coffin. The relief I felt when they were arrested was unlike anything I can explain. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. My wife and I, well, we're not perfect, but we're trying. There's something about surviving hell together that makes you see each other differently. We talk now, really talk, and for the first time, I think there's hope. So that's where I am today. Still healing, still figuring things out, but alive and stronger. What about you guys? If you were in my shoes, if someone betrayed you but also needed saving, would you forgive them? Or would you walk away for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you'd handle this mess. And don't forget, you're watching Forsaken Joe, where every story leaves you asking, what would I do?